So, how do you see? Because it's interesting to me that when Trump won, we got just incessant hysteria for 4 years about how we need to get rid of the electoral college and the Russians were interfering and anything they could do to try and delegitimize his presidency. They were trying to do it. And there was a lot of talk. I don't know if you remember, but there was a lot of talk immediately after the 2016 election about California seceding.
Yes. Yeah, in fact, there was proposals. I mean, there's always proposals, but there were new ones that were like, it will break it into 5 pieces and blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Yeah. So now, the shoes on the other foot or what have you, you have these states or you have certain people on the right, some people on the right now talking about secession. How would you see something like that even unfolding? If you think that now would be the time where it's, I do think your point about people, it giving people an easy roadmap of geographical, like a map to figure out geographically where they might be among more like-minded people. I think that's a good point.
Well, and I think right now part of the tension is people feel trapped, right? They're like, I hate the politics around me. Actually, no matter which side you're on, people feel kind of trapped. Like, I hate the politics around me. I don't know where to go to escape. And so I think it actually just causes tension to escalate. Whereas if you had a spot and it was like, okay, there's a choice. You can go here and it's going to be like this, and you can go here and it's going to be like that. And neither one will be perfect for anyone, but there I would imagine there would be distinct differences. And I think that would be quite valuable. And what I imagine would happen was if some states seceded, I can't imagine one state seceding, but if like a bunch of states together seceded or proposed it, which I know sounds ridiculous, but I mean, everything that's big that happens geopolitically sounds ridiculous at the beginning of it. I mean, countries do fall apart. Things happen. Like, it starts small and people shake their head and say it's ridiculous, and it grows. And like, so if something like that were to happen, what I would imagine happen is, because Beverly and I were talking about this last night, she was lamenting that, she is in a county where the county's very red, but the state might be blue. And she's like, well, I'll end up in the bad section, right? I'll end up in the blue territory or whatever it is. Not that I don't like using red and blue because I don't like a lot about the Republicans, but
it's not,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But what I think would happen was the states would secede. If they seceded, I don't know that anyone would fight a war if it was done carefully, especially if it was done before tensions were too high. I know it feels like tensions are high now, but we're not like actually killing each other in the streets. So if we do that, and then I think what would happen is border counties would start seceding from their states. So if you were on a border, if you were in a blue state, but a red county, and you were on the border from another red state, you would be like, we want to be in this state. And I think you would have states starts to reform a little bit. Because a lot of if you look at the map, I mean, you saw this map from Amy Siskind, I assume. This is going around like last week, right? She says, proposed map, New York and California are sick of supporting these red welfare states, right? And she puts this map out. She calls all this red stuff Jesus land. And she calls the blue stuff United States of Canada, right? And she's like, hey, let's just all join Canada, right?
I didn't see this. Thank you.
Okay, well, look, I think most people in these states, and by the way, I'm here. I'm in the Bay Area. I would support this map. Sure. Absolutely. You're going to give us Alaska, which is strategically hugely valuable. We're going to get the entire Mississippi Delta, basically, which is awesome. We've got all this coastland and all these states. Sure. I would absolutely take this. This is a deal I would advocate for if it were real. I mean, she's just throwing this out to be offensive, right? But this is great. This is absolutely great. And I think what you'll see is like, even like, let's take a look at California, how this would play out. at the end of the day, you'd have like a blue strip from about here down to about here, and all this would be red. All this would just boop, move over to this side, right? Now, obviously this one has Colorado and stuff that's red, which is not exactly correct. I don't think this is a realistic map. This is just kind of her joke, trying to make fun of what she calls Jesus land. But, if this were real, sure, I think people would accept this. And I think New York and California are pretty full of themselves. One thing that it made me think of is this is a thing that I don't know if it's just on the left, but it definitely is on the left. It's definitely a socialist mentality, but it may also be on the right. I haven't thought about it.
Wait a minute.
This idea that what?
Wait a minute. The woman who tweeted this map is on the left?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's Amy Siskind. She's like making fun of Jesus, quote, Jesus land. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't have a problem with this map. I mean,
right.
I have some, but
right.
Okay.
Right.
I wouldn't call it Jesus land.
Of course not. But, that's her derogatory. Yeah. It's funny that the left now uses Jesus as a derogatory term. Jesus is a derogatory adjective, I guess. Jesus land, right? But yeah, so the left does this again, and maybe the right does it, but they have this viewpoint. They have like it's almost like they can't think fourth dimensionally, and I mean like the fourth dimension being time. They take a snapshot of things and they're like, well, California is very rich. Therefore, California is where the productivity is. Therefore, all of you people are on welfare from us, and we're the best, and blah, 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 and we'll just take California and go, and Silicon Valley is awesome. Okay. What got Silicon Valley to where it was? It was not leftist socialist policies. California was a much freer state when Silicon Valley started to be Silicon Valley. The reason Silicon Valley grew is the soil was rich. So you could think of it like farming. You've farmed the hell out of the soil in terms of extracted as much taxes from as you can. You've implemented as many socialist policies. You've destroyed the soil. You're still harvesting crops, and you're looking over at some of these other states with very rich soil comparatively and saying, haha, we have all the crops. And it's like, okay, yeah, but they have the better soil. Would you rather start a business in California or Texas? Texas, hands down. Hands down, you would rather start a business in Texas.
Well, and you can see that because the businesses like Tesla are leaving California and moving to Texas, which has the better soil,
right,
so to speak.
Right. So they have this stupid kind of.
Did you hear what Gavin?
Go ahead.
Did you hear that Gavin Newsom said about Elon Musk moving Tesla to Texas? Gavin Newsom, governor of California, he said, "I don't care."
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, of course he doesn't care.
I don't care.
Right. He doesn't care. So, I mean, I think they are living places. I said this before, but leftist anti-free market economics is a parasite, and it needs to go to productivity, leech onto productivity, suck it dry. People leave, then they die. But they're stupid enough that while they're sucking on their host, they just think that like, I don't care. There's so much host here. I got plenty of blood, right? But they don't have any appreciation for where that quote blood comes from. They don't understand that they're just killing the host, which is what they do. And then they're just going to move on. They'll move to Colorado, and because a lot of people were moving to Colorado, right?
I think it'll become like Detroit, which used to be booming. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. In 1950, you wouldn't have talked about California being the tech center of the country. It would have been Detroit. Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So, but as we know, Detroit, I think it's been pretty deeply blue for my entire life, at least. So
I think your point about them not being able to project forward and, having a problem with the dimension of time is a good one. And we joke, you and I, about my issues with time. but but it's funny because I think generally I'm able to look forward, maybe in a way I wasn't before, maybe certainly in a way I wasn't when I was in the social justice cult, because I wasn't thinking very much then in general at all about anything.
Right.
I wasn't thinking things out, but some I'm amazed that people can't seem to imagine where things are headed, in general in Western countries, specifically in places like San Francisco, that they can't imagine where we're moving, And
I think there's some I imagine it. I mean, it's not an IQ thing. It's got to just be some sort of denial emotionally. Like it's just got to
yeah,
denial, right? I'm comfortable. I like it. I want it to work. Therefore, it will work. That's what it is. I mean,
yeah,
it's ultimately just a feeling. It's people. This is why a lot of these phrases that seem like they're not very philosophical and not very detailed, like facts over feelings or they're commies and blah blah blah. Like a lot of that stuff that sounds very obtuse or kind of painting with too big of a brush or not very granular. There's a lot of truth to it. Like it's just at the end of the day, it's just a feeling. It's I want it to work, so it will work. That's it. That's the entire kind of justification for leftism is I feel like it should work. That's it. That is
yeah.
it. And it's all dressed up in pretty language, and people can go get degrees in social justice and publish articles. But at the end of the day, it all comes back to I feel it. I want it. Well, not an argument.
So here's the other interesting thing about you talking about secession and what would happen if that actually happened. Now, no, it seems impossible to conceive of that, but let's just engage in this thought experiment for a second more. Taxtera in chat was saying, Texas is being infested with parasites, as we speak, or something to that effect.
Yes.
Which is true. But I think what would happen, the same way you pointed out that if you're in a quote unquote blue state with a red border, that those counties, might move. I think you would see the same thing maybe in a state like Texas that is still red, but has large blue centers and growing blue centers. I think that if Texas in this, fantasy world where if Texas and a bunch of other states seceded, I'm just imagining what would happen. I'm thinking of all the woke people I know in Austin. I think they would move.
Oh yeah, I think they would too. If Colorado became part of the People's Republic of the United States and Texas became part of America or whatever they were named, yeah, I think you would have them empty out largely, not all of them, but they would leave.
Not all, but I think a lot of them would leave. Yeah.
Yeah, and you would have. I'll say right now, I think there's a lot of people because I talked to them. A lot of them are in our audience. There's a lot of people who are in a place where they feel like it's politically not a match for them, culturally not a match. They don't know where to go. Right? They're like, well, where do I move? Do I give up and go to the back hills of Idaho? Do I go to Austin to try and save a state? Like, what do I do? And if they had a door open to them that was promising, that was like, well, look, there are some places that are going in this direction. I mean, it would make my decision easier. I do want to get out of California. I've got personal reasons why I'm stuck here, but I'm not sure where I would go right now anyway. I'm not sure where to choose. But if it was clear, that would be very easy, right? It would be easy.